Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to another edition of Football Theory. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by my good friend and esteemed colleague, my man Jeff Howe. We're going to get into some topics related to the latest recruiting class for the Longhorns. We'll get into kind of the some of the questions related to NFL upside. We'll talk about the sleepers in the class. We'll also get into some of the player comps, our favorite player comps for this class, and a lot of other topics. Before we do, let's thank one of our sponsors. Let's thank our friends over at SeatGeek. We appreciate our friends over at SeatGeek sponsoring this episode of On Texas Football and being a part of the On Texas Football family. And listen, folks, if you need tickets to anything, doesn't matter what it is, maybe it's a concert or a show, maybe it's an NFL game, maybe it was a college football game. And trust me, folks, our friends over at SeatGeek, they got you covered. With more than 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app, folks. College football, NFL, no matter what event you're thinking about, SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale from 1 to 10, so you know what you're getting. All right, you know if you're getting a good deal, they get the green dots. That means go. All right, that's a good deal. Red means bad, probably not a good value for you. So they make it really simple. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. Of course, they got a great deal for OTF fans and fam. Use the code OTF10. You see it right there on the screen. OTF10, and you'll get 10% off your next set of tickets with SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code OTF10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. All right, let's dive into it, Jeff. This is going to be fun. Okay, so first of all, first topic I want to ask of you related to this latest recruiting class for the Longhorns. You know, what player comps, college or pro? You can go college or pro here. We'll open it up. And by the way, Jeff and I have not discussed our answers for these questions at all. We just go into it. So Jeff and I could have the same answers, could be wildly different. That's part of the fun. What's the best or your favorite player comps for this latest recruiting class? You go with one, and then I'll go with one too. We'll kind of go back and forth on this thing.
So I know here on the channel we've talked a lot about Derek Cooper, trying to figure out like which running back he most resembles. I will give credit to our colleague CJ Vogel because we were talking about Tyler Atkinson, and to me, when I watch Tyler Atkinson, I see a guy that just from a kind of a football character standpoint, right? Reminds me a lot of Jordan Hicks when Jordan Hicks got to Texas. I think we forget the injuries piled up.
Wow.
Like Jordan Hicks was an athletic guy, but quarterback of your defense, heartbeat of your defense, the guy that everybody rallies around, people kind of gravitate to him. But I will credit CJ because I think CJ from a player skills comp gave the best comp I've heard for Tyler Atkinson. How about Levante David, a guy that we saw in the Big 12 that 1 year he was at Nebraska. He was at Nebraska for 2 years. One of those was in the Big 12. A guy that's been an all-pro with the Bucs, Super Bowl champion, 6'1", 233. And a guy, again, Rod, great sideline to sideline range, heartbeat of the defense, quarterback of the defense. So I will credit CJ. The best comp I've heard for Tyler Atkinson is probably Levante David.
That's a really good one. That's a good one. There are a few that I've seen for Tyler Atkinson. All of them are great. I know some people throw out the Fred Warner thing. I mean, that's best linebacker in football, arguably. But I like the Levante David one, actually. Yeah. I like it better than the Fred Warner one. I like it better than the Roquan Smith player comp I've heard. I think Levante David. I think CJ might have nailed it on that one.
Because I think Levante David to me is like Tyler Atkinson. I think he's Levante David might have actually been a little bit ahead of his time. I think his prime might have come a little too early for where the league went.
Was he a safety at first? Was Levante David a safety?
No, but
he's a light linebacker.
He's one of those lighter linebackers, kind of those running hit linebackers. And I go back to the Mike Tomlin, Gary Patterson line of thinking. This is about 5 to 10 years ago when we're talking about, man, off-ball linebacker, it's hard to recruit and what kind of guy are you looking for? And the Mike Tomlin quote is, look like what you hunt. And that's kind of how Gary Patterson's philosophy was when recruiting linebackers, and he did a great job of it at TCU. And Levante David's a guy that, a lot of range. He's got ball skills, covers a lot of ground. When I watch Tyler Atkinson, in other words, I think Tyler Atkinson is more of that kind of linebacker than a guy like Anthony Hill, where we know Ant Hill could be a great pass rusher. I'm not saying Tyler Atkinson's not. I just don't think he's got kind of a natural pass rusher like Anthony Hill is. And a guy that I think can probably play well in this scheme as a guy. Like, we know PK likes to drop guys. I'm not saying Tyler Atkinson's not really good playing downhill, but I think he's a guy that can limit your liability, if you will. We all know linebackers are a liability in pass coverage. I think he can limit that a little bit just with his range and his athleticism.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That was a money comp. I love that comp. Another comp that I love in this class, and we've talked about Derek Cooper. I'll just throw this out there. I think depending on where his body goes, depending on how much weight he puts on, how much arm he puts on, we don't know exactly what that's going to be. He could go from, if he puts on about 5 to 10 pounds, you could be talking about that Chuba Hubbard comparison, which I like. When Jerry and I have talked about that one. If you're talking about, about 20 pounds, maxing out that frame, then you're talking about a Todd Gurley type guy with that, with a lot of armor over the top of him. And I mean, keeping the speed and acceleration and keeping that explosivity that he has as a running back, that downhill running style. And he has the great feet as a running back too. And I like the footwork. Jerry talks about the skip cut with Derek Cooper, where he's setting up next level defenders with the patience and the vision. I mean, he's got it all. I do think, depending on where his body goes, and maybe from year to year, he'll kind of look a little bit different. But all of those comparisons, I think, are apt comparisons for Derek Cooper coming in this class.
And kind of the two I've gone with, the violent twitch he plays with at time. And you're talking about a guy, Rod, that could be a 230-pound back with home run speed. And when I see that, the first guy that came to my mind was Fred Taylor. And I know Fred Taylor. I think people really like Fred Taylor rushed for 10,000 yards in the NFL, but it's that violent twitch, and again, that ability that once you get past the second level, it's not like, oh, he's going to make this a 30-yard gain. No, that could be a 70-yard touchdown because he can outrun an angle. So I think that, and then maybe like the best all-around one I've heard. I like the Chuba Hubbard one. Willis McGahee is another one for me.
Oh, old school.
When you watch Derek Cooper in the open field, he's like Willis McGahee. He's got that forward body lean so much where it looks like, man, is he going to fall over but do a Daniel Jones before he gets to the end zone? But no, so I love the Chuba Hubbard one. Georgia fans thought they were getting their next Todd Gurley. I like a little bit of Fred Taylor, a little bit of Willis McGahee, but he's that kind of, upright, just violent, nasty downhill runner that I know we'll get to scheme fits here in a minute, but that's where I think Sark wants this run game to go. If he's going to get it back on track, he's going to do it with bigger backs.
I was trying my best before we move on to the next topic to find one for Jermaine Bishop. And I do think the Adoree Jackson one is good for him, but I think ultimately he's a better offensive player than Adoree Jackson. And I do think he could end up starting at corner. I think Chris Gamble, remember old Chris Gamble from Ohio State? Another guy who played a little bit of both ways before ended up being a DB. I think he's another guy you can throw out there. I mean, the Jermaine Bishop one is tougher. It's just tough to find one, but athletically, if you're looking for somebody who has a just overall elite athletic profile that could start at the power forward level on both sides of the ball, that's kind of what I was looking for. So I ended up with Adoree Jackson, Chris Gamble. I know you can go with the Travis Hunter, but I was trying not to go too obvious because Travis Hunter that's the comp that people bring up with Jermaine Bishop initially. I don't know if you'll get that with Texas. Jerry likes Peter Warrick, which I think is interesting too. Peter Warrick.
And I don't know, Rod. I'm 42. I guess I'm an old head now doing this. Like, you tell me Peter Warrick, I'm like, hey, when you're on a field with Michael Vick and you're in the discussion to be the most electric player on the field, like that sums up Peter Warrick right there at the end of his career at Florida State. But to me, we're Jermaine Bishop, different body type than Ramonce Taylor, but in terms of a skill set, the closest thing Texas has had to Ramonce Taylor since Ramonce Taylor.
That's good.
And Ramonce, to me, was a true positionless guy. Like, was he a running back? Was he a receiver? I don't know, but you just get him the ball however you can, and he's going to make something happen. Like, I think the perfect example is, 2 plays from that 05 season that stand out. Somehow the kick return against Ohio State that he nearly gets tackled in the end zone for a safety, and simultaneously at the end of that play nearly breaks it for a touchdown and gets tripped up towards the end. And then that play in the Rose Bowl where he just gets a pitch and just outruns the entire USC defense to the corner. Like, nobody had an angle on him. That's the kind of playmaking Jermaine Bishop's going to bring to Texas.
All right, let's move on because we'll be on player comps all day. All right, let's get to the next topic here. What's your favorite scheme fit, offense or defense, who do you think is the best fit for what PK does on defense, or what? And you can go Andor. Maybe you got one for both. Andor, what Sark does on offense.
Yeah, I could go deep. I could go offense, but the first guy, when you just sent me kind of the list of questions, right, and we didn't discuss answers. The first guy that came to my mind was Kosi Okpala. And I think about what Texas is doing with what they did with Trey Moore, what they've done with Brad Spence, even Ant Hill as a pass rusher. I think Kosi Okpala is one of those guys that has enough athleticism. He's got enough juice to play off the ball. But situationally, if you want to spin him down and have him rush the passer situationally, can be a guy that thrives in your NASCAR package early.
Yeah.
I think for what PK wants to do, I think Kosi Okpala, it's really nice. As Trey Moore moves on, you're bringing Kosi Okpala into the program. I think athletically, Kosi Okpala might actually be a little bit of an upgrade from Trey Moore. Like we'll see as debatable, but I think very similar skill sets. And now instead of Trey Moore, where you just had him for 2 years, you're going to get to develop Kosi Okpala from the ground up. So he's the guy of all the kind of disruptors that Texas recruited in terms of how PK likes to play defense, right? I think he's the guy I'm most excited to watch develop as his career goes on.
I like that. That's a good one. And I'll go with offense since you went defense. I think John Turntine is going to be perfect scheme fit for Sark, considering how often he gets his alignment on the move. And how often he pulls his linemen, and whether it be in the run game or a lot of times in the passing game, because he's using play action pass, or he's trying to use some deception based passing game, and on the screen game too, where he pulls his lineman out on the screen game. That guy out once you pack some weight on him, but that guy is athletic, and I use the word, but it's crazy for an offensive lineman, agile as he is, on the edge and outside. I think he's a perfect fit for Sark's scheme. Now, he's probably a perfect fit for a lot of schemes, but Sark's gets his lineman on the move a ton.
Yeah, if you're gonna do Longhorn comps for John Turntine, one guy that I thought of, he's a little bit different, but the body type maybe the most similar guy. See, maybe a guy like Trey Hopkins that had long arms.
Oh yeah,
really athletic, had some position versatility. But John Turntine could be like a Kelvin Banks type from this standpoint. Everybody's so focused on like what he's not. And remember, like when Kelvin was coming out of the draft, well, is he tall enough? Or his arms enough? Well, is he an elite enough athlete? I'm like, well,
if you watched it,
I don't know the answer to any of that, but I know when I watch on Saturdays, he's driving dudes 6 yards off the ball and burying him into the ground. So whatever that is, just give me that. I don't care what his 40 is or any of that. Just give me that.
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm with you. That's a great point about it. Yeah, is he too light to do this? Like, you got to go watch the film and watch the way this guy plays the game. So I agree with you on that. All right, I want to get some more topics in, so let's move on. I know you probably got some more, but we'll move on. That's a good scheme fit there. I like that. How about this question? Which one of these players, just kind of looking at where you are right now, do you think ultimately will have? And I almost want to say Dia Bell aside. Now, if you got Dia Bell there, then go with Dia Bell. I'm cool with that. But because it feels like this, it's quarterback. It's going to be quarterback. We're talking about who's got the best and the highest NFL upside, looking at their skill set overall and the value of the position and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it's quarterback. But who do you think in this class? And it could be quarterback. I get that because that's the right answer.
Yeah, I kind of like in my mind, I had already omitted Dia Bell because that's just like the cop out. But I'm going to go, Rod, with probably what is the second cop-out answer, because you're telling me Richard Wesley is as advanced as he is, as athletic as he is, at 16 years old getting to campus. We talked about it on our Wednesday night live stream, and Jerry and I were talking. I'm like, I don't, because Jerry's seen him work out and everything, and Jerry thought really highly of the just athleticism. I'm like, I don't know where it's very Colin Simmons, Ant Hill like, just in terms of an impact guy that I don't know what the ceiling is. Yeah, you can tell me, hey, in 3 years, Richard Wesley is going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, and yeah, I could see that happening. Like I think the sky's the limit for this kid. Just it's really rare, Rod, for a kid to be that young, and like the nuance that goes into rushing the passer, for him to just have that natural of a feel of it, but to be as athletic as he is and still plenty of meat left on the bone. That is. I mean, if you're Le'Allen Clark, this kid is going to keep you at Texas a few more years because you want to develop this kid and get him ready for the NFL.
Yeah, me and you, great minds think alike. I'm on the same page with you. Everything I've heard, and he's on an accelerated kind of developmental path, right? He's reclassified, and you say he's going to be 16 years old, okay, which is crazy, but then you watch his game, there's a maturity to his game.
Yeah.
And like you say, he actually has pass rushing moves. He's got a repertoire already of pass rushing moves. I was talking to Alex Okafor about that. This young man is ahead of the game on that. And from what I heard, I loved, and I just love it, because I asked somebody specifically, I was like, do you mean, I want them to specify this story, because they said he walks around with a pad and pen, like old school, like taking notes. And I was like, that kind of makes sense. Advanced in his pass rushing skill set, is trying to accelerate his developmental path and rate, right? He's trying to be ahead of the game, reclassifying. I do think, even though he's 16, this is a guy that ultimately his upside is tremendous, because he's also playing a premium position on the edge and in a system where he can be showcased. And like you said, I don't know if he's even tapped into.
Yeah.
Because he's so young and his body's about to change, and he's about to, even on campus. I mean, this dude could still potentially grow. That's weird. That's that's how young he is. I'm with you. That's a no-brainer. I think.
I'll give you another one real quick, just keep it on, and it may be more of like a sleeper NFL guy. But when you look at Cohen Brown, you look at his measurables, 10.8, 10.7, 100-meter guy. But we've had a chance to interview him here on the channel, Rod. As hard as that kid works, he's going to put him himself in a position to be an NFL type guy by the time he's done. So that's the other guy. If you think of a guy just with that kind of upside, I think Cohen Brown is one of the handful of guys I think in this class that has a really good chance to outplay his recruiting ranking.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. All right, let's go to the next one, because I know we can be here all day talking about these. You just brought up what could be some people's sleeper in this class. Who is your sleeper in this class?
I got two.
Our sleeper, yeah.
And for what, I'll see if you pick my guy on defense, so I'll just go to the offense. Man, I saw Caden Scher 3 or 4 times as a senior, and he's got good arm length, good size. He's an athlete, can play multiple positions, and is a guy that when you look at this offensive line class, again, it's not the kind of cycle Kyle Flood wanted. They wanted another tackle. They would have liked to have had a couple more guys, but Caden Scher is the kind of guy that I think is smart enough, athletic enough, can apply himself enough to where if he ends up being a 2-year starter for you, that'll have been worth the scholarship for sure. And I think he's a guy that can stick it out and get there. Plus, I mean, when you're talking about, Andrew Luck running that Stanford program, knowing that he comes from kind of that Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw kind of school of talent evaluation, knowing that he learned from Bill Polian about talent evaluation when he was at the Colts.
Yeah.
The Andrew Luck stamp on Caden Scher makes me feel good about his future. Yeah.
No, I like that. That's a good one. I'm gonna stay on the offensive line. I'm gonna say my sleeper, Nick Robinson.
Yeah, to me it was one of the 2 offensive line.
Was it? Okay, massive masher, dude. This 355. That actually can move, like has mobility at 355. Not 355. That's just a rock of Gibraltar sitting there. No, this dude can actually move around. He's kind of my sleeper. It's gonna take a while because I think I got to trim it down. They got to probably turn some of that baby fat into muscle. But man, once I think this guy learns a bit of the system, and once he starts to get his grown man body, I think that dude could be phenomenal. Just that kind of, that size. I mean, you just don't see guys that big, that kind of girth on your old line.
And the guy on defense, Rod, for me for the sleeper was Yaheem Riley. I think he's in that Cohen Brown group. That I think he's a guy that's going to outplay his recruiting ranking. A guy that was recruited is willing to come in and learn that nickel position. And depending on what happens with Grayson Littleton, okay, now we know they're not afraid to put a freshman in that nickel position. I think he's got a chance to maybe contribute there early. Physicality is not a problem with him. And then what I like is you start looking at some of his highlights of him playing wide receiver and the way he tracks the ball, the way he can hide. Like, okay, yeah. So he's got ball skills. The physicality is not a problem. Like, all the tools are there for Yaheem Riley to be a really good player. And, I know Dwayne Akina didn't have a great year, but this guy was kind of handpicked by Dwayne Akina after he got to Texas. So that stamp of approval, again, that means something to me. So Yaheem Riley was kind of my sleeper on defense.
I like it. Nice. All right, good stuff. All right, let's get to. I got a couple of more questions here before we get done with things, and I'll try to go fast here because I know we're getting close to the end of it. All right, so Jeff, I want to know who do you think is the toolsiest player in the class? Just tools galore. I mean, they got in terms of maybe size, the arm length, wingspan, just data points and evaluation. Just man, that's a that boom, boom, boom. Who do you think are the toolsiest guys? I got a couple of guys on here that they may be guys probably could have been sleepers too.
Yeah, again, kind of first
kind of question.
Kind of first guy that comes to mind. And I think one of the themes for this class, we talked about it with Yaheem Riley a little bit, position flex is and just versatility period is one of the themes with this class. Jamarian Carlton, to me, is a guy that he's not going to be as big as Tavondre Sweat, but he's on the Tavondre Sweat growth plan where it's like, man, every time you see this guy, like it looks like he just added 20 pounds.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long where he was like 220 pounds. Now on his visit, like he was 280. So I was like, he's going to be a 300 plus pound kid probably by the time the season starts. So now you're looking at a guy that has the natural twitch to play on the edge. He's got really good arm length. Was he have like an 82-inch wingspan? I think something like that. Yeah. That has a natural twitch and a feel for playing on the edge. Now you're going to spin him down probably as a 3-technique pass rushing tackle, which I mean, this last season, that's something Texas really didn't have, was a disruptor at defensive tackle that could penetrate and get up the field and affect the quarterback. So yeah, I think in terms of just a guy that, man, he can help you multiple ways. There's a lot of guys in this class that can do that, but Jamarian Carlton's the one that jumped out to me just because he could be, like I said, like a 305, 310 pound athletic defensive tackle that situationally can do some things for you.
Yep. Got a gap flex too. Guy can move around, like you said. I won't waste people's time because I had him also as my as my guy that was the toolsiest, one of the toolsiest guys in this class. All right. I'll make it the last question. Who do you, based on what you've obviously gained knowledge of in this process, is obviously learning about this recruiting class and watching the film, who do you think has that? Who's that dog? Who's the dog in this class to you? Who's that dog? I got a guy who I think is that dog.
You go first. You go first, and we'll see if it lines up.
I think James Johnson is my dog in this class. I think he's got that dog in him. Miami Northwestern, but just watching his film, I mean, he's got physical. Hell, I probably could have put him in there as a toolsiest guy too, because he's got some tools for a big man. 34-inch arms. I mean, he's twitchy, got good BGO, recessed the lines of scrimmage, but I like the way he plays with a nastiness to him. And he's from where a lot of dogs are from, Fort Myers, Florida. I think it's where Dion is from, if I'm not mistaken.
Dion is a Fort Myers guy.
I think he's my guy. He's got that dog in him, based on what I've seen, things that I've heard.
The other one that came to my mind was a guy that, again, you mentioned when we're talking about sleep, like Nicholas Robertson. To me, is one of those guys that, like, really great kid, soft spoken, but you turn on the film and you're like, well, that's not the same kid that I just met, because he's just mauling people.
Yeah.
And he kind of, you look at Nicholas Robertson, Rod, and he looks like the kind of offensive lineman that like Georgia or Alabama recruit, just big guys, but they're big guys that can move, like you said, and big guys that when they get their hands on you, start running their feet, like you're done, like it's over. I think him and the other guy, I'm sure Jermaine Bishop could be a great defensive back.
Yeah.
Question.
I mean, he was on the list, but I thought that was too easy.
But just his demeanor, the way he attacks the game, and he's the kind of guy that as a freshman, I think you've got to figure out, hey, we need the ball in his hands X number of times per game. Like I think he's one of those type guys right off the bat.
No, if I was asking the question, and I did ask the question, to Brandon Harris, immediate impact. And that's the guy he mentioned more than any other player in the class. We mentioned Jermaine Bishop in terms of who's going to have the immediate impact. And like I said, I'd use the word gushed over Jermaine Bishop. He was he really was like face changed everything talking about Jermaine Bishop. So I agree. I think he checks a lot of these boxes. He's one of those guys that probably checks damn near the box of every damn question that we brought up. You probably could put them in the sleeper category too, because they may be sleeping on the kind of impact that the young man may have. All right, good stuff there, Jeff. Appreciate it. Let's thank our final sponsor of today's program. Let's thank our good friends over at Advanced Pain Care with a message from 2 legendary Lifetime Longhorns.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, thank you to our friends over at Advanced Pain Care. Thank you to our friends over at SeatGeek as well for sponsoring Football Theory. Thank you, Jeff. Great stuff as always a good time. Thanks to Matthew behind the scenes for twisting and tweaking the dials. And thanks to each and every one of you for watching and for listening. For Matthew and for Jeff, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.